This is the iPhone X. And look, I know every year we say the new iPhone is the best iPhone, but this really is the best iPhone ever made. Now, we've been waiting for this phone for a long time now. Apple says it's a complete reimagining of what the iPhone can be, and there's a lot of major changes here. Apple's gotten rid of the home button, there's no more fingerprint sensor, there's an OLED screen, the first on an Apple phone. You unlock it just by looking at it. There's all kinds of new gestures for navigating. There are some big bets here on the future of the iPhone, and a lot of unanswered questions. Earlier this week, we published a video, said send us your questions. You sent us a ton of those questions, and I think we can answer them all in this review. We got a lot of questions about the design and the display, so let's start there. First, there's the notch. There it is. There's no getting around it, there's no point in pretending it's not there, but I'm gonna tell you that after a few days, it's fine. It's not great, but especially in portrait, you just learn to ignore it. It's definitely annoying in landscape though, especially when you're watching video. If you zoom, the notch will definitely cut into the side of what you're watching. And I don't love browsing the web in landscape either. The notch is just right there. This is a phone designed to be used in portrait. You'll also notice the large black border around the display, which is pretty polarizing. A lot of people I showed the phone to hated it, but I actually think it makes the bright colors of the display pop. It's a very different design decision than Samsung curving the screen to eliminate the bezel. Apple's highlighting what little bezels remain. Apple gave us the white and silver model of the iPhone X to review, and although Apple says the band on the outside is better than surgical-grade stainless steel, mine already has scratches and dings. And all we've really done with it is take photos and videos of it. So I wouldn't expect this phone to remain flawless if you don't have a case. Aside from the removal of the home button and the larger screen, the rest of the iPhone X looks a lot like the iPhone 8. There's the mute switch and volume buttons on the left, the sleep-wake button on the right, and a glass back with a camera bump. The camera bump is huge. It's actually bigger than the bump on the 8 Plus on a smaller body, so there's just no getting around it. Apple leaned into it and tried to make it a design element, which you will either love or hate. It's kind of grown on me though. And of course, there's no headphone jack, which sucks on every single phone that omits it. So, notch aside, the screen is great. Apple's using a 5.8-inch Samsung-manufactured OLED display, which it says it custom designed for the iPhone X. It's a bigger number than the iPhone 8 Plus's 5.5-inch display, but it's a taller, thinner aspect ratio, so it's actually not as big. And there's no tabs in Safari or other Plus iPhone features here. It's definitely more of a bigger iPhone 8 than a smaller 8 Plus, and that's exactly what it feels like in your hand. It's like when Apple moved from the iPhone 4 to the 5, the display basically just got taller. In fact, when you run apps that aren't optimized for the iPhone X, they run with huge software bezels, and the whole thing just looks exactly like an iPhone 8. To answer this question about differences between Samsung's AMOLED and LG's POLED and Apple's OLED, these are actually just marketing terms. The fundamental construction of OLED screens is basically the same, although there are clear quality differences between them. And I have to say that the iPhone X is at the top of the class when it comes to quality. I keep saying the iPhone LCD is the best and most accurate phone screen out there, and the iPhone X looks just as good, if not better. It's way brighter, it's super vibrant, and it basically looks like pixels directly under your fingers. It doesn't have the crazy neon colors of Samsung phones. iOS just does better color management than Android, which is just starting to do it, and I think you can see it here. The display uses a diamond pentile pixel layout, which means every pixel on the screen shares red, green, and blue subpixels with the other pixels around it. That's different than like the iPhone LCD, which has dedicated RGB subpixels for every pixel on the screen. Now, a lot of people don't like pentile screens, and to be honest, I have not liked them in the past either, but you can't really tell with the iPhone X unless you're using a really tight macro lens, which, of course, we did. Apple says it's doing a bunch of custom anti-aliasing and subpixel rendering to make this display work better than other Samsung pentile OLEDs, and honestly, it shows. This screen really does just look great.